There comes a time in life, often past 75, when silence speaks louder than conversations and peace weighs more than company. At this age, many of us begin to realize a sobering truth. Not all friendships are meant to last forever. Some become burdens, not because we love any less, but because life has shifted, and so have we. You've probably felt it, that subtle discomfort in maintaining a connection that once brought you joy, but now only brings exhaustion. The kind of friendship where every call feels like a duty, and every visit leaves you emotionally drained. This video is not about bitterness. It's about clarity. It's about giving yourself permission to let go of what no longer nurtures your spirit. So if you've ever wondered why you feel lighter after distancing yourself from someone, or why certain friendships have become too heavy to carry, stay with me. You are not alone, and there is strength in this understanding. Before we dive in, I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to let go of a long-term friendship because it simply became too much? Share your experience in the comments. And if you find these reflections meaningful, don't forget to subscribe. You never know who else might need to hear this message. Now, let's explore why, after 75, some friendships become too heavy to carry. When I was 78, I reconnected with Carl, a friend I hadn't seen in over a decade. We used to be close, playing cards every Friday, fishing on weekends, sharing laughs over silly things. When we met again, I expected that old comfort to return, but it didn't. What came instead was bitterness, not mine, but his. He talked for hours about people who had wronged him, about how the world had gone to hell, about how nobody cared anymore. I sat there listening, my tea going cold, my heart growing heavier with each complaint. It wasn't that I didn't care. It's just that, after a certain point in life, you begin to protect your peace. You only have so many sunrises left, and spending them soaked in someone else's anger starts to feel like a betrayal to yourself. I left that day feeling tired, not from the drive, but from the energy it took to hold space for a man who refused to move on. The truth is, some friendships age poorly, not because of betrayal or cruelty, but because one person stays stuck in the past while the other tries to live in the present. And when those paths diverge, holding on becomes harder than letting go. Have you ever had a friend whose negativity began to weigh you down? Someone whose conversations left you feeling more burdened than before? Tell me in the comments. Your story matters, and someone out there needs to hear it. And while you're here, consider subscribing. This channel is a place for voices like yours, wise, seasoned, and honest. Imagine this. You're sitting alone on your porch one peaceful afternoon. The breeze is just right. Birds are chirping, and your tea is warm. Then the phone rings. It's an old friend, someone you've known for decades. You pick up, happy to hear their voice. But within 5 minutes, they're asking for something. A ride to the doctor, help paying a bill, emotional support for the same problem you've listened to for years, with no sign they'll ever change it. You feel it again, that invisible weight pressing on your chest. You say yes, because you're kind, because you've always said yes. But when you hang up, the porch doesn't feel peaceful anymore. The tea is cold. The birds are gone. Too often, we become emotional caregivers in our friendships. We give and give until there's nothing left for ourselves. And at our age, that kind of giving isn't just exhausting, it's dangerous. We've survived enough storms. We've earned our calm. Some friendships become too heavy not because of arguments or betrayal, but because they turn into one-way streets. You become the fixer, the listener, the helper, while your own needs go unnoticed. At 75 or 80, that's a road you no longer need to walk. Let me ask you, have you found yourself always being the one to give, while the other only takes? How did that affect your spirit? Leave a comment below. Your insight could be exactly what another heart needs today. And if this is resonating, don't just listen, join us. Subscribe for more conversations like this. We're building a space where the wisdom of age is not only heard, but deeply respected. According to a 2023 study from the Stanford Center on Longevity, nearly 1 in 3 adults over the age of 70 reported that at least one of their long-term friendships had become a source of chronic stress. Not just occasional frustration, chronic stress. That's a startling number, especially when you consider how much we value our old friends. We're told that friendship is always good for the heart, but sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it's a slow drain on your emotional energy. It turns out that not all connections improve with time, some corrode. When researchers asked those seniors why those friendships had become stressful, the answers were telling. Repeated guilt trips, lack of appreciation, judgment over life choices, and emotional manipulation. Many admitted they stayed in those friendships simply because they had history, not because they felt good in them. Now think about that. We wouldn't keep a pair of shoes just because we wore them in our youth, not if they gave us blisters every time we put them on. So why do we do that with people? It's time we normalize something powerful, walking away from long friendships when they no longer serve our well-being. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting the good times. It means honoring what was, while protecting what is, your peace, your health, your joy. Have you ever felt guilty about ending a long friendship, even when it was hurting you? What helped you make that decision? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your story might be the light someone else is searching for. And if you haven't already, subscribe now. There's strength in this community, and we grow wiser with every voice that joins. Let's talk about the brain, not the heart, for a moment. Neuroscientists have found that as we age, our amygdala, the part of the brain that processes fear and emotional intensity, becomes less reactive to negative stimuli. In simpler terms, the older we get, the more our brains are wired to seek calm, not chaos. We crave emotional regulation, not emotional roller coasters. But here's the contradiction. Many of us continue to hold on to friendships that constantly activate stress, drama, conflict, jealousy, unresolved resentments. These relationships go against the very biology of our aging minds. Our brains are literally telling us, stop feeding me stress. Give me gentleness. Give me balance. Yet we sometimes override that natural wisdom out of guilt or loyalty. We think, I can't abandon her now, after all we've been through, even when every conversation leaves us agitated, tired, or emotionally numb. But loyalty without peace becomes self-neglect. Scientific studies also show that seniors who maintain low-conflict social circles tend to have lower risks of cognitive decline and better cardiovascular health. Emotional peace isn't just a luxury. It's essential for survival. Ask yourself this. Are your current friendships supporting your natural need for peace? Or are they disrupting it? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you noticed a shift in what you tolerate in relationships as you've aged? What kinds of friendships feel healthy to you now? Let's talk in the comments. And don't forget, every week we explore truths that others are often too afraid to say. If that sounds like something your spirit needs, hit that subscribe button. You belong here. Let's look at two people. Both are 80. Both have lived full lives. But the way they manage their friendships couldn't be more different. Margaret still hosts her monthly bridge group. The women laugh, talk about books, share stories from their grandchildren. They lift each other up. When one of them is going through a hard time, the others surround her, not with pity, but with presence. Margaret says those afternoons leave her feeling energized, lighter, even younger. Then there's Tom. Every Wednesday, he meets an old army buddy at the same diner. But instead of warmth, their lunches are filled with competition, one-upping each other's stories, bringing up old fights, disagreeing about everything from politics to the price of pancakes. Tom says he goes out of obligation. We've been meeting for 40 years, he shrugs. But every week, he comes home more bitter than before. Here's the truth. Some friendships are like sunlight. They nourish your soul. Others are like smoke. They cloud your vision and choke your joy. And the difference often comes down to this. Do they bring peace into your life, or do they stir the waters? Contrast reveals clarity. When you stand Margaret's joy next to Tom's resentment, the message is simple. Friendship should never be a punishment. History isn't enough. Shared years aren't enough. If it costs your peace, it's too expensive. Which side of the contrast do you find yourself on more often these days? Are you surrounded by lifters or drainers? Comment below. Your honesty might help someone else name what they've been feeling. And if you've been nodding along with these reflections, don't just watch. Join us. Subscribe now and be part of a space where wisdom, not noise, leads the conversation. By the time we reach 75, our lives are no longer defined by accumulation of things, of titles, or even of people. They're defined by what we choose to release. And sometimes, what we must release are friendships that no longer fit the person we've become. This isn't about resentment. It's about alignment. about choosing peace over obligation, clarity over confusion, and mutual care over one-sided weight. When a friendship begins to feel like something you have to survive instead of something that helps you thrive, it may be time to let it go, with grace, with love, but also with strength. You are not selfish for protecting your spirit. You are not unkind for choosing stillness over struggle. You've walked through decades of storms. You've earned your rest, and your relationships should reflect that. So here's my parting question for you. What does a nourishing friendship look like for you now? What do you value most in the people you keep close? Let's carry this conversation forward in the comments. And if you've found comfort, truth, or courage in anything I've shared today, I invite you to stay. Subscribe to this channel. This is not just a place for stories. It's a home for souls who've lived, lost, learned, and are still growing. You're not alone here. Thank you for spending your time with me. Until next time, be gentle with your heart. It's carried you far.